we are not giving this the time tonight that it deserves. It's actually a massive story. It's one of those stories, though, that we are not the experts, and we need people here to talk to us about this. So just putting that out there from the start, we're not going to give it enough time. We need to give it more time, which we will, because obviously this is ongoing. But I guess just long story short, it looks like we could be looking at Foreshore and Seabed 2.0, only worse. Let's have a look at the story from One News tonight.
The government ignored official advice and was warned.
Sorry to pause straight away there, but I heard that and I just thought that's their tagline now. The government ignored official advice. I don't know how you do it, like National, we ignore official advice 2026.
I'm going to get that bumper sticker made.
Official advice and was warned its relationship with Maori would likely be damaged while pursuing a law change over the Foreshore and Seabed. That's what the Waitangi Tribunal has heard on day 2 of its urgent hearing into plans to amend the Marine and Coastal Area Act. Māori Affairs correspondent Tiana Huri-Hanganui reports.
Plans to toughen up the test for customary marine title have today been likened to a wave crashing down on Maori rights.
And you're paddling through it, you're physically fatigued, you're holding your breath a lot. Just when you think you're at the back, another big set comes through.
The government believes the courts have interpreted the law in a way that means it's too easy to be granted custom.
Can I ask this question as well? The government is telling the courts they've got it wrong. I know we say this a lot. Pardon me. I know we say this a lot, but could you imagine if Labour 18 months ago had started to say the courts have got this wrong and we're going to change it because the courts have got it wrong? I thought in a democracy, in a first world system, the courts were supposed to be independent of interpretation, independent of, meddling from a government, from an MP, from a prime minister. To have a government say, courts, you're not ruling the correct way, for me, seems terrifying, Chewy.
Yeah, and that's because it is, and it's been glossed over.
Any thoughts?
It's crazy. It is crazy, and it just seems to be becoming more and more commonplace.
You're breaking up a little bit there, Chewy. You might have to take a pause for a sec. We'll play some more and see if we can't get you back because you're breaking up a little bit. We'll keep going.
Marine title, a right that allows Maori to veto a resource consent.
It had quite a high threshold and quite a high test. That was lowered through the Court of Appeal decision, and all we're doing is returning it back to the state that it was in 2011.
But advice.
Who was the Prime Minister in 2011? I believe it was John Key, National Government. So going back, we're taking our country back. We're making Aotearoa great again. Back, that's all the back stuff.
Received from officials gave a different view.
The body of evidence from the parliamentary record, public statements from legislators at the time indicated that Parliament had a less restrictive intent.
Concerned too much coastline would be affected, the treaty negotiations minister continued pursuing the changes anyway. Meeting with seafood industry reps in May, he said they should reduce the amount of coastline for...
Get that? Meeting with seafood industry. So he's gone to a commercial entity. He's met with them first. And if you haven't seen this yet, Chewy, you see what they reduce the available amount of land that Maori will be able to claim rights on. You have a look what it goes down to. I won't spoil it. It's a fantastic little treat for you, Chewy. Have a listen.
The amount of coastline for which Maori are awarded customary marine titles to just 5%.
What the fuck?
Reduce the 100% of coastline subject to CMT to 5%. So with a wave of the magic wand, they're just going to cut out 95% of the coastline not being eligible for customary rights for Maori. 95%. And Chewy,
So
you might think something, right? You might think, well, that's an interesting number. I wonder where they came up with it. I know you want to jump in. This has got 30 seconds because this is a really important part.
No, I do
Paul,
want to know.
Yeah, so Paul Goldsmith gets asked where the 5% comes from. Have a listen.
5%.
Had that 5% threshold been discussed with Cabinet before you brought it up in that meeting?
No.
Just make it up.
I didn't just make it up. It was just it was an indication of just outlining that our goal was to restore a high threshold, and so that was by way of an example.
He was also
So I just pulled it out my ass, probably in consultation with the fishing industries. We'll get to the end of the story too, and then I'll let you explode.
advised against making the changes retrospective, which will likely force some iwi back to court.
The Minister did not accept that recommendation. I believe it is clear from the consistent advice from officials to the Minister that any changes to Section 58 would be likely to damage the Māori Crown relationship.
A relationship still under strain and under the microscope, with the hearing wrapping up tomorrow. Te Aniwa Hurihanga Nui, One News.
Chewy, yours, sir.
I want to know who these fishing industry people that he spoke to are. One of the biggest fishing industry partners in the country is the Ngāi Tahu-owned Sea Lord. I can't imagine that they would have agreed to 5%, considering Ngāi Tahu covers fully half the country.
I suspect you're right.
That's jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
Like I think of all the things that are coming out about our coastal fisheries, especially, is how overfished they are. Down here in Otago, we hear that yellow-eyed penguins don't have enough to eat. That our coastal fisheries are being plundered. Again, dealing with the issues of climate change and fishing stocks changing. And once again, I come back to environmental issues and these issues of conservation, like literal conservation. We want to conserve the natural resources that we have in our coastal areas, to our rivers, to our forests, to our conservation areas. Our one big hope here is Māori dicking their necks out again and again and again, and going back to court again and again to fight for what is theirs for the benefit of all of us.
Yeah.
That is, why are we doing this again? Like the more I find out about, but like the Pat.
Yeah. Yes.
The more I find out about Paul Goldsmith, the more I don't think he's a good dude.
Perfect little way to lead into this last part of the conversation, Shui. Our mate Jordan Rivers did a piece a week ago that came through my TikTok feed today. And it's, funnily enough, your old mate, Paul Goldsmith, is included in this. This is 1 minute and 18 seconds from Jordan. Let's have a listen.
Hey, how's it going? This guy here is called Stephen Rainbow. Don't be fooled by the name, though. He's anything but an ally. Having taken to social media several times to talk about what he calls the trans agenda and expose himself as a transphobic person. But beyond that, during the current situation in Gaza, he's also taken to social media to tell people to back Israel. Regardless of all of this, this current coalition government has decided to put him in place as our chief human rights commissioner. Just going to let you think about that one for a bit. You did hear me correctly, though, just in case you were questioning that, because it sounds ridiculous. The New Zealand government has indeed chosen a man that doesn't seem to believe that human rights should be afforded to every human to be the chief human rights commissioner. He was officially appointed by this man, Paul Goldsmith, who is the Minister for Culture, but is also a man who decided that a cultural invitation to a Maori cultural event had too much culture in it. So he had all cultural words removed, but he's the Minister for Culture. In Stephen's own defense, he said that his personal views on those issues shouldn't matter and that there is no one right thing to believe when it comes to human rights. Although, respectfully, Stephen, I would disagree. I think the one view that you should have as a human rights commissioner is that humans have rights. It is in the fucking name. Anyway, that's your coalition government update for the week. Everything's going... It's going.
Sorry, Joe. I just knew you needed one more kick in the guts to make things worse for you tonight before you head off to bed.
It never ends. It never ends. Like you mentioned that this could be Seabed and Foreshore 2.0.
Yeah.
I hope that we have moved on enough as a country to make sure the Māori aren't doing this on their own again.
Yeah. Good
Because
call.
that whole discussion brought out just a pale, ugly underbelly of this country that we are still trying to shake off. That was iwi versus Kiwi. That was Don Brash's national government. And Labour at that time under Helen Clark decided that rather than push back against that, she needed to court the racists as well. We can never have that again.